The wisdom of All Wise. All Wise. Ere long shall a bride Deck the bench beside me; we will hasten home together. Swift in my wooing shall I seem to all beings, but at home none shall hinder my peace. Thor. 5. What being art thou, so pale of hue? Hast dwelt to night with the dead? A likeness to giants I trow hangs o'er thee; thou wast not born for a bride. All Wise. I am All Wise, who dwell far under the earth. I hide in a rock for my home. I look for the Thunderer, lord of the Goat Wain. Let none break a firm sworn vow. Thor. I will break it, who rule o'er the bride as father; he alone among gods is the giver. I was far from home when that fair maid of mine was promised thee ever as bride. All Wise. What hero is this who holds in his power that fair glowing maiden as gift? Like a far straying arrow none knows who thou art, nor whence all the wealth which thou wearest. Thor. Winged Thunder am I, wide have I wandered, son of Sigrani Long bearded. Ne'er with my will shalt thou win the young maiden, and get thee a wife among gods. All Wise. Thy good will then must I speedily gain, and win me a wife among gods. I would liefer hold in my arms than lack that snow white maiden as mine. Thor. The maiden's love thou shalt not lack, stranger, who seemest wise, if thou canst tell out of every world all that I long to learn. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is earth, which lies spread before sons of men, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Earth 'tis named among men, but field among gods; wains call it ever the Way. Jotuns, fair green, elves the grower, high powers call it clay. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is heaven, which once was born of Ymir, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Heaven 'tis named among men, time teller among gods; wains call it weaver of wind; Jotuns overworld, elves the fair roof, dwarfs the dripping hall. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is the moon, which men behold, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Moon 'tis named among men, the ball among gods, but the whirling wheel in Hel; of Jotuns the hastener, of dwarfs the shimmerer, 'tis year teller called of elves. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is Sol, which the sons of men behold, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Sol 'tis named among men, but sun among gods; dwarfs call it Dallier's playmate; ever glowing the Jotuns, fair wheel the elves, all shine the children of gods. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how are clouds of the sky, that with showers are mingled, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. They are clouds among men, shower promise to gods, wind floater called of wains, rain omen of Jotuns, storm might of elves, helm of the hidden in Hel. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is the wind, which wanders wide, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Wind 'tis named among men, but waverer of gods; the wise powers call it Wynir; Jotuns the howler, elves roaring rider; in Hel 'tis called swooping storm. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is the calm, ever wont to rest, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Calm 'tis named among men, sea rest among gods; wains ever call it Wind lull; Jotuns the swelterer, elves day soother, dwarfs the refuge of day. Thor. Tell me this, All Wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is the sea, which is sailed of men, named by the wights of all worlds? All Wise. Sea 'tis named among men, wide ocean of gods; wains call it Flowing Wave; Jotuns eel home, elves the water stave; by dwarfs 'tis called the Deep. Thor. Tell me this, All wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is fire which burns before men's sons named by the wights of all worlds? All wise: fire 'tis named among men, but flame among gods, Wanes call it leaping wave, Jotuns the ravener, Hel folk the racer, dwarfs the burning bane. Thor. 5. Tell me this, All wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is wood which waxes before men's sons named by the wights of all worlds? All wise: wood 'tis named among men, wold locks among gods, by heroes sea-weed of the hills, Jotuns life feeder, elves the fair limbed, waves ever call it wand. Thor. 6. Tell me this, All wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is night who is born the daughter of Njord named by the wights of all worlds? All wise: she is night among men, but mist among gods, the high powers call her Hood, the Jotuns Unlight, elves the Sleep Joy, dwarfs the goddess of dreams. Thor. 7. Tell me this, All wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is seed which is sown by the sons of men named by the wights of all worlds? All wise: 'tis named barley among men, but bare among gods, Wanes call it growth of the ground, Jotuns food stuff, elves the sap staff, Hel dwellers drooping head. Thor. 7. Tell me this, All wise, since thou art learned in the ways of all beings, I ween: how is ale which sons of men drink oft named by the wights of all worlds? All wise: ale 'tis named among men, but beer among gods, the stirring draught of Wanes, of Jotuns clear flowing, of Hel folk mead, by the sons of Suttung feast. Thor. 8. Not e'er have I found in the bosom of one more learning of olden lore, but with wiles art thou duped, thus dallying here, while dawn is upon thee, dwarf! Behold, sun shines in the hall! All wise the dwarf is turned into stone. Recording by Expatriate in Bangor, Maine. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.